guys, hope you're all having a wonderful new year. I read the post up on Facebook, I think it was posted by Mark, the other zebra instructor, on what you guys wanted to learn for a new year. And I saw that someone said, I think it was Ollie, I don't know if I pronounce it right, he asked for an upright bass sound in zebra. And I found that an interesting question, and I never tried it, so I thought I might give it a go. Maybe Mark wants to do a tutorial about it as well, so then you have two. First off, what I recommend is, if you really want acoustic sounding upright bass, use acoustic sounding upright bass and not a synthesizer. But that being said, I think I got pretty close. This was my example, and this is a sampled bass. So this is a real bass. And I used an example because there are a lot of different bass sounds, and it's easy to get lost in one direction. So now I keep working on this one, and I know that it should sound like this, and I'm not drifting off too much when I'm in zebra. Anyway, that is the real one, and this is my zebra bass. So there is a difference. Yeah, this one is sounding a lot better, but mine is still a bass, and I used a really small reverb here on the channel, and I used this bass plugin, and it's by Waves. It's called CLA Bass, stands for Chris Lord LG, and it does a little bit of compression and a bit of distortion and stuff like that. So I hope you don't consider that as cheating, but if I bypass, it sounds like this. You can hear that it enhances the attack of the sound. Then I use the bass amp for Logic users. This is built into the new Logic, and also does a lot. Makes it brighter. And the other stuff is just a high pass equalizer. So then we go into zebra. Let's just start with the first lane here, which is the FM oscillator. It's tuned down -2 octaves, and this one is just providing the bass. And it's on envelope 2, and it has no attack, a little bit of release, no sustain, and decay to 50. And as you might notice, I use the delay on every envelope here, and to do that you right click on this first. Normally this would give 3 empty dots, or 3 dots, and then when you right click you can say delay, and now you can set the envelope to delay a little bit by the percentage that you set here. And I did that because I noticed that in the real bass the attack is quite complicated. There's a lot happening in the attack, so I wanted to mimic that by using the delays and having each envelope a little bit behind each other. And because I used different envelopes on different lanes, as you can see on the bottom here. So this one is my bass. Then I have my noise oscillator. I think you can barely hear that. I set this one to crackles because white noise was sounding a little bit too digital. So I set it to crackles, and then I use the filters to make it sound a little bit like someone releasing a string. And with sounds like this, it's all about the details. And what I tried, and I didn't end up using it, but what I tried as well was here on the envelope that is set to this whole lane. I right click here, and then I can say release 25, and I set the fall rise somewhere there, and now when I press the key on my keyboard I hear the noise, and then when I release the key I hear the same noise again. So there you can hear it more clearly. So now I press the key, I hold it down and nothing is happening, and then when I release it I hear a little bit of noise, and you can use that to make the release more realistic. And because on this original sound you can hear that the release also, you can hear the noise in there. So you can try the same with this, and then you can shape the tone further. You could, for example, use a shaper maybe. And then maybe send it to a bus and give it a little bit of different delay. Maybe like this. Well, anyway, I tried that, but I didn't come up with great results immediately, so I left it out for now. But just know that that is an option. So this is my normal. It was my normal sound, I think. Okay, so that is the second lane, and then we get to lane 3, and this is really a copy of lane 4, but then with an extra comb filter and an extra shaper, and that is, I'll remove this one, and this shaper is listening to velocity, so when I press the key harder it will sound more distorted. It's pretty subtle, but it basically does this when I press the key harder. And let's see, we have the comb filter there as well. So this one is also just giving the clickiness of the sound. And you can make it less clicky by turning the damp a little bit down. And you can mess with this a little bit. And the interesting thing here is that I tuned this one down -5. So that's a bit weird, but it sounded good, so I left it that way. So this is playing back 5 semitones lower than the main pitch, which is this one. So this lane 4 is the main sound, and I started out with a comb oscillator, and it sounds like this. And the comb oscillator is basically, I say oscillator, but it's not oscillator, it's a comb filter, and what it does is it's feedbacking the input sound, and that feedback gives a tone. So here you choose the sound that is the input sound, and it's a very short click, and normally this is set to noise, I think, by default. And if I turn this all the way down you won't hear anything, because it needs some sort of sound to start the feedback chain. And here you have the amount of feedback. And I set this to saw because it gives a duller tone, it sounds less digital. And when I turn the damp a little bit down, it starts to sound more like a guitar instead of a bass. But we want the bass. And then I set it to split comb here. And then I use the tone and flavor knobs here to shape it further, and these listen to velocity. And the damp is listening to the key follow. And maybe a little bit detuning with an envelope. So yeah, and after that I have a normal filter, which is a high pass. I think you can leave this one out. Although this one is key follow is pretty interesting, and you could use that. What I was looking for by making this sound was things that don't change the sound completely, but kind of give it a little bit more character, or change the sound up a bit. So I was looking for knobs like this key follow right here. It changes the tone a little bit, and then when I found something like that, I used the velocity to let's see, filter to control that. So that I get very subtle changes in the sound. And then after that I've used a low pass. And these ones are listening to the envelope. Envelope 2 and envelope 3. And they're also listening to the velocity. The resonance is listening to the velocity. You can see that in the mod matrix here. And the aftertouch is on the cutoff. I think we don't need that for now, forget about that one. So that is the basic setup right here. And then in the mod matrix we have the velocity to the cutoff of filter 1, velocity to the FM oscillator, vibrato, all really subtle, and to the portamento, which is the main glide, so that's this knob over here. Listen to velocity, and then filter 3 resonance and filter 2 key follow, all with velocity. And I could have done this way more efficient by using a mod mixer, and then I don't have to set up so much modulation. But there are other videos about that. And let's see, the other I think the last important thing is when you go into the envelopes. The envelopes are the main thing in this sound, and when you click on the plus right here, you can get these new options, and you have velocity scaling and key scaling. And this means that what you set here is going to control the knob right above, and I only use the velocity scaling. And you can change the attack, for example, or decay when you play different velocities. So I messed with that a little bit for all the envelopes. Oh no, I messed something up. And you can play with this and hear when it's starting to sound a little bit more natural. And you can also try the key scaling for this. And that means when you play higher on the keyboard, it's gonna respond, the decay is gonna be shorter, for example, when I do like this. So yeah, that's an important thing. And also, last thing I wanted to mention is the V slope here. When you set the envelope normally it's going to be in, I think, quadric, but when you set it to V slope you get this slider here, and you can make the whole envelope more concave or more convex, so you can change the slope of the decay, and this makes for a more natural sound. So experiment with that. I can, let's see, the main envelope is envelope 4, so you hear the difference there. Messed it up a little bit. So yeah, I hope that gets you started, and I think that is all that there is to it. I didn't use any effects. Nope. So that's it. Experiment with that, and it takes some practice, or it takes some time, depending on your skill level, and also depending on what kind of bass sound you want, and maybe you want a more distorted bass, then it's gonna be a little bit easier because you don't have to make all the small nuances. But I hope this gets you started, and otherwise let me know. Thanks for watching.